Yeah, because one of the things I say is I've done the secured party process. I did it back in
Well,
2020, and it's
right.
one of the things that taught me a lot about trust law.
Uh-huh.
And once I apply those principles of trust law to what's actually going on, it really does make part of the secure party process inaccurate.
Oh, it does.
Yes, because most people start with the wrong presumption. They
Uh-huh.
start with the presumption of that's my name.
Uh, I
If
got you.
that's if that's I mean, one, you don't have firsthand knowledge that it's your name. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, yeah, you're so right about that. You, you, I'm you could say I'm as green as the grass about all this. Only thing that I've done is gotten our birth certificates, my wife and mine, and we got the letter from the Department of Homeland Security Immigration Services saying that we're not American, we're not United States citizens, and we were following this process of what this one group that I was in, and because I was like, they give you these bits and pieces, but they don't give you any, tell you how to do it. That's
Here,
what
give
my
me a
wife
minute.
was saying. They don't want to tell you how to do it, and they want you to pay a fortune to learn how to do it. You know?
Now, I'm open and honest about things. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I charge for classes? Yes. Do I charge astronomical rates? No. I do I do one I do a two classes a month in the workshop for
Uh huh.
for members. The membership's 125 a month. But this is an ongoing class. Everything's recorded, so you can always go back.
Right.
Then occasionally I do special classes. I did a special class the other day on tax forms and
Uh huh.
Social Security forms on how to properly fill them out, and that was a $200 class. That was it. But do
Yeah.
I make people pay? No, I don't. If you're trying to learn, all I tell you to do is like, if depending on what you're trying to learn, I say, hey, go in the file section, grab such and such book.
Right.
Because honestly, you have to be willing to do a lot of reading. Good morning, Bree.
Oh, I don't have a problem doing that.
Good
I was a
morning.
paralegal for 4 years.
And then on top of that, then I mean, when you're reading these books and you got questions, I'm here to ask questions. But
Uh huh.
most things in my group that people post is very good information, but you have to weed through some of the bad stuff because you still got some people that come from other platforms like American State National Group, State National Group. Some of their information is correct, some of their information is not.
Well, I've already seen your videos on TikTok and about the statenationalsrock.com and
Yeah,
about David Strait and Anna Von Reitz, and I mean,
I've went through
it
these
was,
people.
you went through them.
I've been at this 12 years.
Oh
I've
wow.
I've done GSA bonds on a family court case. I actually did a power of attorney to help a truck driver out on a case for careless and reckless under threat of getting charged with practicing law without a license. They wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
even let me in the courtroom. You know, I didn't go to jail for that. I've beat two of my own cases. They're minor cases. They were tickets, but they couldn't do
Right.
nothing with me. The last one I did, I didn't even have to go to court. I just called the clerk and they sealed and dismissed the record
Mm-hmm.
just through a conversation because I look at it, I put the fear of God in them based on what I was saying. But no, when it comes to the UCC-1, if you start with the wrong presumption of that's my name, everything thereafter is going to be flawed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you said, you did the FOIA request,
Yeah.
and where they come back and said, we don't have any records of you being a U.S. citizen. Well, that should
And
be
if you
very
have records,
eye-opening.
yeah. Yeah, it was. It was eye opening. I mean, I was like, you know, I voted and don't tell you how many elections, and the funny thing is I didn't get my Social Security till I first went to work. I had to
Hmm.
apply for Social Security because I was born in '62
Oh,
because they
you're a
didn't
youngin.
issue. Well, are you older than me?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, I mean
I
that what
refuse
I'm
to get
saying.
old.
Well, the thing I'm saying is that the way things were back then, and even on my birth certificate, you know what it says? It says non-resident.
Um,
Isn't that funny? Non-resident. I'm a non-resident. Uh-oh, we got disconnected.
no, I'm ordering some food. So give
Oh,
me one
you
second.
having breakfast?
Yes, sir. Um,
Oh, wow, we got a group of people on here. Wow, that's. Are you going to do a talk or something?
home fries is fine. Thank you, ma'am. Um, hey, it's one of the best ways to have a community is sit down and eat together. Ain't that what
Well,
the
I've already had my.
disciples did with Jesus?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no,
My bro.
no. You see, here's the fundamental problems with a secured party process. On the side of creating a trust, yes, I don't disagree with that. I've learned
Uh
from
huh.
some of the best people. Like, do I like UCF? Yes, I do. When it comes to his trust classes, I don't have a problem endorsing those because I've reviewed them. I've looked through it. I've went and backed up through my
Uh
Westlaw
huh.
account the things he teaches. There's a lot of people out there teaching trust law that don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Right.
And I prove them wrong on some of their assertions all the time because I have a Westlaw account. I can go look this stuff up anytime.
Right.
But now, when it comes to the part of it revolving around the name,
Right.
people say, well, they didn't give us full disclosure. Yes, they did. Look on the back of the card. It says it's their property. Would the card
Mm-hmm.
exist without the name and the number? No, it wouldn't exist. So that automatically tells you if they say it's their property, then that's not you. Because why? It's illegal under the Northwest Ordinance to own people.
Right.
I don't use the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment is just a restatement of the law
Mm-hmm.
of what was actually done in 1787, which is the Ordinance of 1787, otherwise called the Northwest Ordinance, which forbids slavery. Okay.
Right.
So if they own that name, you have to figure out what is your relationship to it. You're not
Mm-hmm.
the grantor, you're not the trustee, and you're not the beneficiary. Well, if you're not any of this, what are you? The only option left is you're the registered agent for that trust. Because if you
Right.
look up Social Security trust, they'll tell you it's a trust.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a trust can never be you. So when you try to file a UCC-1 on the name, how did you verify there's actually a debt owed to you? You see the problem
How?
there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because of what is a UCC-1? It's a lien,
It's a
right?
lien. Yeah.
Yeah. If you did work on your neighbor's car and they didn't pay you, you would do what? An administrative process. You would send them a
Call a
bill,
lien.
first notice.
Mm-hmm.
You would send them, they don't pay, you'd send them a second notice and say, hey, you have so much time to respond to this second notice. If
Right.
they, you would send a third, you'd send a third notice, and after that, then you'd go to court and you'd get a lien on them. Then you would file a UCC-1 against them, right?
Right.
Most of the people out there are jumping the gun. They're filing a UCC-1 against that trust like they have authority to do it because they
Mm-hmm.
start with the presumption of that's my name,
Right.
and it's not your name. It's their property. Social Security was created by Congress. What you create, you control.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who created it? Congress did. They had the
Yeah.
right to.
So this process then is not a, where you
I
can do it within a real timely
I only
manner. It's
know
going
of,
to take.
yeah, it's going to take time because you got to prove there's a debt owed. Well, that's why
Right.
the class I'm teaching, one is law of agency. Right now, we're at class 10. We got 2 more classes left, and
Mm-hmm.
that's for the memberships. Um, and
Right.
then once we finish with that, then we're going to the law of contracts. What I teach is fundamental principles. I go right
Right.
through their stuff, teaching the principles of how it works instead of processes. If you know principles, you can actually develop your own processes.
So is there a book, Law of Principles or something?
No, well, see, law is so expansive that I'll give you an example. Let's see. I'll share my screen.
Oh, you're sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
See.
My screen.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
seeing
not
your
going to
screen.
share my screen.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well,
I'm not
I
going to be able
know
to,
that
so I ain't got but 2 bars. But
yeah, you were coming in and out when you were talking. But
yeah, if I'm
let
just
me just
talking and I'm not sharing video,
yeah,
I can do this.
let me just tell you
But
that this is our situation, okay? I'm in Texas. It's 100 freaking degree. We're out of AC right now,
yeah,
and we've got somebody hopefully coming to take care of the AC today. But anyways, my wife is working for AT&T. She makes roughly 60,000 a year, but with all the stuff that we have to pay for, we can't make it on one income. And when I went down from doing what I do in the golf business, because it's on, it's out in the open on a golf course, that knocked out our income for the last 2 months. We're going to start back up in September, but it's not going to be anything like what it was.
You need one
And
of
are
them
you
so,
Instagram
self-employed?
Elon Musk Starlinks, brother.
what's that?
Are you self-employed or are
Yeah, it's
you
contract.
working for a
No, it's
company?
contract. It's contract
Hmm.
labor. I get 20% of what I raise on the golf course.
Well, now, so you did it under a W-9, right?
Yeah, it's. I think so. I'm not sure. Yeah, W-9. I guess that's what it'd be.
Yeah, if you're an employee, then it'd be a W-4 instead of a W-9.
Right.
Well, here's the problem. We've all presumed that's the proper way to do things.
And it's not.
No, it's not. All W-2s, all W-4s, all 1099s are Class 5 gift and estate tax. Okay. Now, let's go into the file section in the chat. Type in 6209. Now,
You want
I'll
me to
make
do
it
that?
easy on you. I'll make it easy on you. Show in chat. Let's see. Boom. Reply. I'm gonna type here, and all you have to do is um,
Here, I
just
see it. Yeah.
tap that, and that'll take you right to the document.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you look at it, this is from the IRS website. It gives you
Okay.
all your tax classes. Okay.
Uh-huh.
If you look on first page 1, you've got the form number. Column 2 gives you the title, file
Yeah.
source, and then tax class. Okay, there's actually 8 tax classes. And if you look at the form number, you'll see beside the W-2s, they're class 5. You'll see W-4s, same thing. W-9s, same thing. 1099s, same thing. Why are they class 5 gift and estate? because of the
Okay.
social. What is it? It's an estate.
Yeah.
When the employer, be it under a subcontractor as in a W-9 um, or through a W-4, when the employer pays you, that's the estate side. Because why? The trust is an estate. It's not your estate, but it's an estate. Okay. When you pay bills, that's the gift side. Now, if you scroll down to,
I was there, but I didn't
let's see,
see what you
page
were talking
2.
about. Page
Well, okay,
2.
if you look at page 2, well, like I said, go to page 1. You see where it says form number in the left-hand side of the column?
It says nature of changes, tax returns and forms. Yeah,
Yes,
form
under
number.
that.
I see it. I see
Yes,
form
okay.
number. Yeah.
You see that beside where all the W-2s are, you scroll to the right, fourth column says tax class 5.
Yeah.
All W-2s, all W-4s, and all 1099s are class 5 gift and estate.
I see it. Yeah.
Okay. The minute you put the name and the social to the document, you are operating under that estate. You're operating a business. Okay. You're not now.
Gee.
If you scroll down to page 4, bottom of page 4.
Let me
Okay,
see.
you see 1040 and 1040A, 1040C, et cetera, right? What tax class is that?
Okay. Okay, page 4 of 20. The bottom where now?
At the bottom left, you see where it says 1040,
Yeah,
and it
I see 10.
continues on page 5. Okay.
Yeah,
What
1040.
individual income tax return? What tax class is that? Go over to the fourth column.
I don't see. I see a 2.
That's right. Tax class
Yeah.
2. So
Yeah,
wait a minute.
1040.
There's a problem here. Tax
Yeah,
class
it's
2
all
and tax
2s.
class 5 are not the same thing.
So tax class 2 is
It's individual. It's individual income tax.
yeah.
Remember don't they tell you it's voluntary compliance? You
No.
voluntarily give them information on monies you have a right to earn, thinking you have to. They cannot tax a right. They can only tax a benefit or privilege. You technically have zero reportable income. You're volunteering through ignorance to let them take all this money out of your pocket.
Yeah, and make you penniless.
Yeah. I wish I could find it. I can only tell you that it's hearsay, but supposedly in the 1954-ish range, there was a Times Magazine article. I've just heard this. I heard this through the grapevine. I've never been able to confirm this, and I wish I could. But there was supposedly a 1954 Time Magazine article where they interviewed the IRS commissioner. And in that interview, they actually admitted the purpose of the income tax was to bankrupt the people. Why? Because the people choose to remain ignorant.
Right.
See, in Corinthians, it says, he that wishes to be ignorant, let him. That's also a legal maxim. Because why? You have the free will choice. They will never violate your free will, and they will never violate your beliefs. If you believe you are a U.S. citizen, they will let you believe that. Now that you see you're not.
Right. Well, the thing that really got me is I listened to on your Rumble, your 3 hours and 41-minute video with, I think her name's Tracy, and then you had somebody else on, but that I thought I was in the Twilight Zone because I was
Yeah, I
like,
saw
when
your
she said
comment. You said Twilight Zone.
when she said that, I'm like, what the fuck? I said the government has been watching me since day one.
It's actually not you they're watching.
No, they're watching the
The
entity,
trust.
the trust. Yeah,
Yes, please.
and I'm
I
like,
want you to
gotta
go
be
to Google. I want you to go to Google.
okay.
Type in signatories to the trustee reports.
Signatories to the trustee reports.
Remember, they do give us full disclosure. They do publish everything. We're just not reading
Well, I've been down so many rabbit holes. I just want to reach out and punch the shit out of somebody.
it. I felt that
Not,
way myself.
not me. I just got here.
To the trustee
David?
report, you said?
Yeah, it should be an ssa.gov website right there at the very top.
Signatories to the trustee report.
David, Michael, you got to start putting up videos. We got to get you to 1,000 on TikTok, so when I go live on TikTok, you can join.
Okay, so Social Security Administration?
Mm-hmm. The title of the
touch
link
that.
will be exactly what I told you to search.
It says signatories to the trustee reports.
Yeah.
And touch that, and then what am I going now?
Open that link.
I did.
What does it say? There's 6 trustees.
Oh, Janet Yellen, she's a bitch.
No, she's not. She's doing her job.
Oh, well, she's a Democrat.
Yeah, but she's still doing her job. Okay. The first trustee is Janet Yellen. It's not the person, it's the office. The office of Secretary of Treasury. She is operating the position. That is the managing trustee. Why? That's the bank.
Right.
Second trustee, Secretary of Department of Labor. Why? When you went and got a job, you filled out a W-4 or a W-9. You put the name of the trust, the EIN for the trust, you put an address, you checked U.S. citizen, but you didn't realize what you was filling out. So the Secretary of Department of Labor has to keep up with what its trust is doing.
Right.
The address is for the Office of the Registered Agent, which is you.
Okay.
Now, what's the duty of a registered agent? To report. To report, send all notices, all demands, and all processes to the principal. Okay. The third trustee, Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services. Why? Very simple. The state is the beneficiary of the trust. Who do they go to get their Title II, Title IV, and Title V funds? They go to the Department of Health and Human Services.
Yep.
You're not the beneficiary. You're not doing that. And actually, Tim in this group, he called the Social Security Administration because of what I teach, because he had a problem with it. He called them. They said, yeah, you're not a beneficiary yet. Well, he said, what's that mean? Well, you haven't met the proper requirements. I said, oh, that's what they mean. Now, what does that actually mean? When you meet the requirements for those certain spendthrift trust funds, like Medicare, Medicaid, all that stuff, you are a limited beneficiary. You will never be the full beneficiary.
Okay. So you're being expired, in other words.
See, if I create a trust and I name it James Cantrell and I appoint trustees and I appoint beneficiaries, is that trust you? No, it's a piece of paper.
No, piece of paper.
And everybody, a lot of these gurus out there say, well, the courts operate on presumption and assumption and all this stuff. No, they let you operate on presumption.
Right.
And the last time I looked, the Bible says presumption is a sin. So what are they doing?
Yeah.
The Bible says government is instituted to do what? Punish the wicked.
Yeah.
You're committing the sins and they're punishing you. You're trespassing. You're coveting their property. You're trespassing on their property. You're committing all these sins and you're unaware of it.
Right. So So basically, for me and my wife, for what I've been brought to believe is really not going to happen. It's going to take years and years of doing to
It's going to take
get us.
years and years of. It's going to take years and years of learning. That's the key. Because why? You got to be able to defend it. Does that mean? But is doing also going to take years and years? Not necessarily.
Right.
It's waiting on you to get to the point where you are comfortable based on what you think you're able and ready for to do. Then you start doing your own thing. That's why my job, it took me 12 years to get here. My job is to shorten your time frame.
Yeah. Well, it's like I got to go rob a bank to get the money so that I can get it done.
No, you are a bank.
Well, I know, but it's knowing how to access the funds to take care of what needs to be taken care of. That's what's
There is no access to funds.
no, it's a security. You basically
There's no access to securities. No. You got a mortgage, right?
I don't have a mortgage. We're renting.
Did you ever have a mortgage?
Yeah, and we sold the house many years ago.
Okay. When you sat down at the mortgage table
Uh-huh.
and you issued a promissory note, what did you issue? You issued money.
Money, yeah.
What's the difference between that promissory note and the one you carry in your pocket called a Federal Reserve note?
The same thing.
That's right. They look identical. Well, they look different, but under the law, they look the same.
Yeah.
They look and act the same.
Right.
You issued in Title 12, UCC-1. If you read that, you issued a collateral security. The bank is supposed to take that collateral security to the Treasury to receive the book entry credits. In other words, the Treasury is to set off the debt because it's a government obligation. You didn't know what you was issuing. You didn't know how to do banking, so you didn't know how to defend it, so you lost it.
And if I'd have known, I could have had that. We could have had that house free and clear.
No, you paid for it that day. You got to stop thinking free and clear. That note was your money.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard about this QSIP number and how all that bullshit.
It is BS.
Yeah, they're doing those videos and saying, "Watch this," or and there's
They're
my
flat
account.
wrong.
It's worth.
You know why they're flat wrong?
I don't know.
What happened in 2008?
The big crash of the credit union.
Housing collapse.
The housing collapse, yeah.
What did we learn about during that? We learned about mortgage-backed securities.
Mortgage-backed securities, yeah.
We learned that they bundle, we'll just throw out a hypothetical number because it depends on who's doing it and their securities. But let's say they bundle 1,000 mortgages into one hedge fund, one security. Right?
Right.
Do you really think your social is that important that you can pull up your social and find a security only attached to your social? No, that's narcissism. We have a country of narcissists that think that their life is so important that if I type in my social or I type in my birth certificate, that must be me. That's called hopium. Opium's a very addictive drug. No, they bundle. Yeah, opium. It's almost as addictive as opium.
Yeah.
It makes people believe the most dumbest things.
Yeah.
And do the dumbest things because they say, "Oh, that's my QSIP." No, it's not. You have no evidence because the one thing they never show show me the name attached to it.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why when I heard your video, and you know how I heard your video was when that young black guy came on and was responding to Divine Mother about her video, and he mentioned your name, Pastor of the Way. Okay. So I looked it up on TikTok and listened to some of your videos, and one of them was you have a no nonsense approach. Okay. And that's one thing that I like about, and you're straightforward. You're not sugarcoating anything. You're telling somebody, look, this is what I charge, and this is what it is, and if you can't pay it, then you can learn how to do it for yourself.
And I'll
But,
help you do that.
yeah, well,
Not everybody can pay me for my time. I understand that.
right.
Okay. Do I appreciate the support? Oh, yes. Anybody that is a member or takes my classes, they will tell you. I definitely give you more than your money's worth.
Well, I will say this, is that if I can get our debts to be where they're paid, discharged or whatever, and then my wife has a house she can call her own, and there's
Hey,
plenty
go into the
money.
files section. Go into the files section, download the book, just search commercial paper.
Commercial paper.
Yeah, just type that. You'll find it. It's got a blue background,
Does that cover
blue and white
everything
background.
that I'm talking
It deals
about?
with commercial paper and payment law. It's going to give you the basics of banking.
Okay.
You want to learn how to issue your own notes and settle the freaking debt? Read the right books.
So go to the file section. Well, come on, dadgummit. Oh, I got to click on the picture. That's what I got to do. And in the search window say commercial paper.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a truck driver for real?
For real, yeah. I own my truck.
Where do you drive interstate across? I mean, like from several states over, or what do you do?
Right now I'm in Pennsylvania. I finish delivering tomorrow night in New York. Then I pick up a load in New York and I go back down to Florida, deliver Friday night in Florida. And from there, I have to wait and see what load pops up.
So when I put in commercial paper, it gives me all this law. Gilbert Law, Douglas. Is that it?
Gilbert's Law Summary. It's got the picture of it is a blue banner.
Yeah.
That's it.
So just download that.
Yeah, download that.
Okay.
Get you a notebook when you're reading. Treat it like you're in school. Take notes. You have questions, bring them back to the group.
Yeah, you got from January till June of 2023. No, October 2022 to June of 2023.
Yeah, my files are there, and I tell people this. Depending on what you're trying to learn, I'll give you the information. And this is the honest to God truth. My teaching style, why it is so different, is I'm teaching you what I'm learning and showing you where I'm getting it from.
Mm-hmm.
If the government has to publish everything, because why? Simple contract law. They have to give full disclosure. The problem is there's nothing in the law that says how they have to disclose. And the people don't like how the disclosure is.
You went to the source is what you did. As opposed to what these other people are doing, and they're going by what somebody else has done because they've been told that this is the quick way to do it. And there is no quick way to do it. There's one way, and it's the right way.
Yep.
Period.
Do you think it took that we got in this situation overnight? No. You're not going to get out of it overnight.
No. Well, you know, my brother, I'm waiting for him. He's getting his teeth, he's getting implants put in, but he's 5 years younger than me. And I was talking to him about, state nationals and stuff. And he said, yeah, I came across that over 10 years ago. And he knows all about the birth certificate and everything. My brother's real smart. And he said, but I chose not fight the system, just enjoy what I got. I'm like, what's wrong with you, man?
Don't
So,
fight the system. You're fighting against God.
yeah.
Who instituted government?
Man,
No, God. Read Romans
God
13.
instituted. Yeah, I know.
Okay, now, if God instituted government, he instituted it for a purpose. But the one thing God didn't do is violate the free will of man. He gave
Right.
man the free will to decide what kind of government they have. Guess what? You can't call government evil because in turn you're calling government evil. Government is doing its job. It's punishing the wicked.
Right.
The problem is the people don't realize they're actually the wicked ones. The government gave you something that is their property and said, here, go use it in commerce. And you assumed it was yours. You covet after that account. The Bible says
Yeah.
thou shalt not covet.
Thou shalt not
Right.
covet.
The Bible calls debt sin, but yet you go out and create debt and you never report it to the property owners called the trustees so they can balance the books. So that means what? You are a detriment to the system, just like we all have been, because why? The banks ain't going to tell the government about those government obligations. They're securitizing them.
Yeah.
You're not telling them. So guess what happens? We're over $32 trillion in debt.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. That's nuts.
But the people think it's because of government spending. No, the government could stop spending today. And because we're still continuously creating more and more debt, the government can't balance the book because we're not telling them what we're doing.
Right.
March 9th, 1933, they told us it was their obligation. We've been running around here volunteering saying it's our obligation. Don't worry, we'll take care of it. So guess what happens? The debt just continues to grow.
So this thing that I was hell bent doing of going through the process to become a secured party creditor was like, yeah, you can do that, but that's not the do all end all of it,
Realizing one, who you are as a player in a game is the most important. Who are you? Most people can't answer that. Not only
I'm
that,
a human being. I know that.
are you? Well, according to some legal definitions, that makes you a monster. A monster don't have rights.
No, I'm flesh and blood.
You're a man created in the image of God. That's what my Bible says.
Yes,
My Bible says I'm
true.
a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. That means I can't be a citizen of the United States and I can't be a citizen of the state because the Bible says you can't serve two masters.
Right. I'm sure you've had this conversation with many people. I'm not the first.
No, you're not, and you won't be the last.
Yeah.
The problem is the government loves most of these gurus putting out bad information. Why? It keeps the people distracted from finding out the truth.
Yeah. They're too busy on their phones and stuff instead of really finding out what's really going on.
Well, if the people actually discover the truth, it'll change the direction of the country, kind of like it happened in Nineveh.
Right. Well, there's a small percentage of people that really know about what's happened to the country and how we've been done as a people and stuff. And when you talk to people that they're like, no, I never heard of that. And they're just totally dumbfounded.
We did it. We did it to ourselves. Yeah. Government is just a reflection of the people. The more evil the nation, the more government will become.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be a part of this group. I wish I had plenty of money so that I could expedite my learning process.
I'm not gonna turn you away. I'm gonna still help you learn. I'll point you in the right directions.
I mean, so basically, just cover this Gilbert Law thing that I've got here, commercial paper, and then that'll give me the direction of where I need to go to do what I'm trying to do.
On the money,
Discharging
is it going to be a
the debt.
100%? Is it going to be a 100% solution?
Probably not.
No. Is it going to get you some knowledge to get you started to get where you can do it? Yes. See, most people, you got gurus out there saying, I'll help you learn private banking. 99.9% of those people never get to an actual private bank. And I can tell you that now. I got a recorded phone call where I accidentally got in touch with the private side of a bank. It was an interesting conversation.
Okay, that was somebody.
Yeah, the private side of the bank is very, very interesting because they're dealing with high-profile clients and accounts, and they have like trust officers.
Oh, they're not just doing that.
Hey, I'll be right back. I got a phone call I got to take.
Okay. Those notes that the people are issuing, that's the side of the bank that brokers and sells them.
What do you mean notes? Like, what do you mean? Define.
What is money, Chief?
It's money printed out of thin air on the basis of a signature, issuance of a promissory bill of exchange, negotiable instrument, commercial paper.
It's not printed out of thin air.
It's not printed out of thin air. No, it's printed off whatever. It exists. It's real. It's a very real thing. People work hard for it. Yes.
Money. Money. People that are teaching that it's made out of thin air don't understand the system, or they're naive, or they're purposely deceiving the people.
No, I get that. It's not just printed out of thin air.
Money is nothing more than an agreement between two parties of something they say has value.
For sure. That can also be registered at the Treasury window.
You issued money when you issued the note. That's why I've been fussing at you for all these months, Chief, to read the right stuff instead of listening to every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
No, I've read negotiable instruments, and I've read that whole section.
So, it doesn't matter if it's gold, it doesn't matter if it's silver, it doesn't matter if it's grains of rice. My buddy Mark in Minnesota, crazy Mark, Bree, I mentioned him to you. He settled a traffic ticket with grains of rice. He went to court, let the judge find him guilty. He let the judge find him guilty. I stress that.
Pastor dropped out for a second, guys. He'll be back.
Oh, okay. Well, I was asking him about a class, and he just disappeared like the ghost.
This pastor's class is really good. It teaches like law of agency, contract law, trust law. It's very like awe-inspiring, and a lot of the publications the government puts out there, if you learn to read them, there is like particular language in the way that they skew how they are portraying what the system really is, right?
Yeah.
And so it takes a little bit of acclimation and just getting used to perceiving it the way that I guess like it's not exactly like legalese, but once you get the reading down and you spend about like 2 months, like you really do have a very comprehensive depth of the system in a way. But for example, like pastor's been studying this stuff for several plus years. He knows the court structures. I mean, he knows everything. So he's very
Right.
wise.
Well, yeah,
And
he.
Wow, why would you put a burden on a brother like that, Chief? What evidence you have that Pastor knows everything?
well, what you mean? All right, here, ask Pastor a question you don't think he'll know. He's gonna answer. He knows.
I'm just fooling with you, but
Okay,
the
I'm
thing
back.
is, nobody knows everything. In fact,
Yeah, no,
I
he
would
doesn't know
venture to say
everything, but he
most of
knows a
us don't
lot.
know
And if he doesn't know it, he'll tell you where to look.
Yeah.
That I would
No,
agree
it's
with.
not if I don't know. The reason I know where to look is because I've looked it up. If I don't have an answer, I will go look it up and find an answer. Now, sorry about that. I had a phone call. No, that's all, man. Mark let the judge find him guilty. Okay, the judge pronounced a $200 traffic fine. He said, "Okay, now that we've settled that, Your Honor, my one question is dollar of what?" Judge is like, "Well, you know, U.S. currency." "No, I don't, Your Honor. Please define U.S. currency." And he says, "Well," he said, "well, you know how to handle it, Mr. Garrett," and walks out. So Mark has a pouch that he keeps with a dollar symbol on it with grains of rice. He walks out to the clerk and he hands to the clerk a handful of rice and says, "Keep the change." "You can't do that." The sheriff threatens to arrest him, and he said, "Yeah, I can. If me and the judge have an agreement, if the judge don't like it, have the judge come out here and tell me I can't."
Mm-hmm.
The problem isn't the system. The problem is people's understanding of what is money. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The black peppercorn.
Yeah, a peppercorn, there's court cases that said peppercorn was considered sufficient and valuable consideration because it was valued at 1 cent. They can't even tell you what is considered valuable consideration to you because that violates the contract clause, Article 1, Section 10. They can't tell you and the other party exactly how to contract.
The thing is, everything is subjective. What's valuable to me may not be valuable to you.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem, because if I value something at a higher rate than you value something, if I want it and you got it, I'm willing to trade for it, and I don't give a shit how you value it. It's what I value it at.
Mm.
I mean, look, James,
Yeah.
but people believe the only money that exists is Federal Reserve notes. But guess what? They use multiple forms of money every single day and don't even realize it.
Yeah.
You go down to Walmart, you're going to buy a TV. You have 4 options. You have Federal Reserve notes, we call that cash. You have a debit card, you have a credit card, or you can write a check. Well, that depends on the Walmart location, whether or not they accept checks, but you get my point. Is that your only source of money? No.
No.
But there are different processes depending on what you're doing. If you're going to issue a money order or a cashier's check, what do? You say, "Walmart, tell me the price of this TV to pay for it now." And they'll give you an amount. "I'll be back in 30 minutes," and you bring back a money order or a cashier's check. Is that your only other option? No. You've got promissory notes, bills of exchange, drafts, bankers' acceptances, all these other forms. But there's a different process. So what do? You fill out your negotiable instruments, send it to the CFO, say, "Hey, big time CFO of Walmart, can you please, after you collect your fee, put the remaining balance on a Walmart gift card for me to buy my necessaries?" And if he agrees to it and accepts it, guess what? Still money.
Right.
You can pick up a handful of dirt out of your yard. If you think that's got value and the other party agrees, it's money. Because one time in history, they used to use seashells. Who decided seashells were valuable? The people, the parties to the
Mm-hmm.
contract.
Yeah.
That's why the state nationals and these idiots out there saying they stole the gold. We have no money. No, y'all are just morons.
Yeah.
No.
So you don't have to become a state national to do all the things that you're wanting to do, and is what I'm getting to see.
You've been free all this time. You just didn't know who you were as a player in the game. You've been free all along.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, James.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Have you ever met the claimant?
The claimant?
Mm-hmm.
The one that's claiming that you would have to do anything.
No.
You should go
Not
check
that I-
out Street Legal Thinking. You should go check out Street Legal Thinking on YouTube. That's Popeye's channel. The guy talking to you.
Oh, that's Popeye.
Yeah.
Well, the claimant is like in a lawsuit.
What's
No, it
that?
ain't.
The claimant is in a lawsuit.
No, it ain't.
James.
The claimant.
James.
What?
Think about this. If you
Okay.
just got a so-called ticket,
Uh-huh.
a cop pulls you over and gives you the ticket.
Uh-huh.
That's actually making the claim that you have violated a so-called traffic law.
Right. Is that a counterfeit 100? Wow, I would have not guessed that.
Is it the actual cop that's making the claim, or is he going to say it's the state?
Yeah, he's going to say, well, the city is what he told me.
Well, either one. The thing is, let me ask you this. The city in itself, is it the ground, or is it in reality nothing more than a stack of paper with ink on it?
Yeah, you're right. Stack of paper with ink on it.
All right. So let me ask you this, brother. Have you ever had or heard a stack of paper with ink on it talking with you like I'm talking with you now?
No.
So then how can a stack of paper make a claim against a real man?
It can't.
Congratulations, brother. Congratulations. You just tipped onto the first part of the whole thing. And that's the reality of this. The claimant is always going to be, and the claimant isn't just in a civil case. Claimants are in all cases.
Uh-huh.
And since everything is commercial, and by commercial, there is no criminal. Unless there's an actual injured party, everything that they consider criminal is merely just a code, statute, or regulation, which is really nothing more than not only just somebody's opinion, but it's all offers to contract. Contracts are commercials. All contracts are commercial.
Yeah.
Are you taking notes?
I'm hoping this is recorded. No.
It is recorded. I'll put it up on YouTube later. But what you told me in our private DM about what you're getting ready to start trying to do, this applies to you.
Oh, thank you.
Because when I tell you to go to, when you go to Street Legal Thinking, his YouTube channel, he talks to credit card companies and asks for the claimant.
Who's the real party in interest? Who's the one that's actually making the claim that I either have done or not done something? So the reality of it is it's all the same. I don't care if it's a so-called city, county, credit card corporation, a so-called bank. It doesn't matter. It's all the same.
Not only that,
Legal Thinking.
Yeah, that's Popeye's YouTube channel.
I'm going to subscribe to it right now.
Not only that, you got to think about it. A claimant can only make a claim if there is a transgression. Somebody's
Yep.
claiming you have a transgression of some type, be it what you think of as a crime, a civil case, criminal case, a debt, a credit card bill, etc., etc. Who's the real party of interest that has the first-hand knowledge that you owe that?
Three. Is this
See,
it
the
with
thing is,
Popeye's face?
it's actually, yeah, it's got the Popeye face on there. And the reality
Okay.
of it is this, guys. Everything is contracts. The only person that could ever say that you're basically breaching the contract, which is what everything is, it's a claim that you have breached the contract somehow. Well, the only person that could ever have firsthand knowledge of the actual contract is the real party in interest, the person with the firsthand knowledge. The only one that could ever have the evidence that you have breached the contract is that person with the firsthand knowledge, the claimant. The only person that could ever make a claim against you is the one with the firsthand knowledge. Well, the problem is there is no one with firsthand knowledge. The piece of paper with ink on it can't speak up, and everyone else is an agent dealing on hearsay. In fact, they don't even know for a fact that they work for the city or the county or the state because they've never met the stack of paper. The stack of paper has never told them, you now work for me, you represent me in all matters.
Yeah. And the agent can never go above and beyond what the principal's duties are.
Well,
Right, you cannot exceed the capacity of the principal for which you're claiming to represent. And think about this, and this is very real contract lingo. Infant is not of legal capacity. Somebody of mental illness is not of legal capacity. And the reason being is because, number one, they cannot have a conversation known as a meeting of the minds. Thus, they can never come to formation. That being said, a stack of paper is in that same category. It is not of legal capacity. You cannot have a conversation discussing what do you mean by this word, what do you mean by that word.
Now, I will tell y'all, part of the reason I endorse Popeye is not just because of his knowledge, but his background too. He started out like all of us, but guess what he did? He went above and beyond. He decided one day, I'm going to go to law school, and he did. Those professors had lots of fun with him.
Wow.
Yep.
So he's an attorney?
Not really. I've been through law school. In fact, I left about halfway through law school for a couple of different reasons. One of the reasons is I went to law school initially to figure out how to beat them bitches at their own game. I've already figured that out. But then I also had a business opportunity that landed in the lap, and it was too good to turn away from. And as it stands right now, I put in a fraction of the amount of hours that attorneys do, and I make just as good of money. Mm-hmm. So, but that being said,
you got knowing who you are as a player in the game, part 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what you were referring to a while ago.
I was the one that basically came up with that. Yep, knowing who you are as a player in the game. And I based this off of several different aspects of everything that I learned. First, like I said, there's the contract. And as a contract, you are the only real party in interest. When it comes to GovCo and or any other so-called entity, such as a corporation of any sort, we as the only living, breathing man, are the only real party in interest. None of the agents that we ever talk to are ever going to put their so-called signature on any documents to be the real party in interest on the other side. They're always going to hide behind that corporate veil. And here's the key little when it comes to some of this stuff, and especially with somebody like a judge. I'm going to go there because one of my best experiences was, and this is how I know that I essentially at that point where I'm beating them at their own game. I asked the judge in a criminal case if he was putting up or if he was assuming liability for a claim he just made sitting in the courtroom. And that judge got up and ran out of the courtroom. He didn't adjourn. He put in a not guilty plea for the name. And I asked him, are you assuming liability for that? He ran out of the courtroom. Didn't do anything, but just ran out. Came back about an hour later, cleared the courtroom, and then called the case back up. And as I was walking to the podium, I asked, was that a yes or a no? And he ran out again. Told the clerk to set for another date in front of another judge. He could not have me ask that question one more time, because had I asked him one more time, three's a charm, 3 strikes, you're out, it would have been his responsibility.
The
How
power,
I wasn't guilty.
the power of 3 is true, especially in court.
Listen to a judge. In fact, one of the things that I tell people, if you really want to see the power of this, if you really want to see how this plays out, go to your local courthouse and just spend a little bit of time in the calendar courtroom. They always have a calendar courtroom, and that's the one courtroom where they dish out all the other cases to other courtrooms, or they deal with them right then. In that calendar courtroom, they're always going to ask defendants 3 times if they're okay with something. And as soon as that defendant says okay for that 3rd time, especially if they have an attorney, then the judge is going to turn to that attorney and ask, does counsel join? Just watch that shit. Once you realize how they do, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Yeah.
And there's a legal maxim too that says anything that goes unquestioned, unrebutted, or unobjected to is considered to be consented to under true. This is the more detailed way of saying silence is consent. So if you ask a judge, such as this judge, are you putting up surety, you assuming liability, and he goes silent, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. If he doesn't put an answer, it's whatever you want. And especially if you get that question into his head 3 times, now it's for sure locked in. Can't back out of it.
See, Popeye's actually, when it comes to the name game, Popeye's been successful on the name game. I've been successful on the name game. Other people like Boris, he knows about the name game. He's in this group.
Boris he knows about the trust and stuff, because I was listening to him.
Yeah.
That guy, he's got to be like an attorney or something.
No, he's not. He's like us.
Really?
He's just been doing it longer than I have. And I've been
In
at
fact,
it 12 years. He's been at it longer than that.
Boris used to hang out with a brother known as Batman. The basis of what I do is known as batology. Basically, the essence of batology is making no claims and asking 3 basic questions. Is there a claimant? Who is the claimant? When can I meet the claimant? That's batology 101 right there. Don't ever make any claims.
Awesome.
And the reason being that you don't ever want to make any claims is because those GovCo agents and or whoever, companies, when they call you, they're always going to be the ones making the claim that you haven't done something or you did do something, whatever the case may be. Well, as soon as they make that claim, the burden of proving that claim is on them. But if we ever make any claims, that burden of proof shifts to us. The burden of proof needs to stay on them, and the best way to keep the burden of proof on them is to continually ask them questions that keeps that burden of proof on them.
Right.
Look, they can never convict you in a courtroom except by your own words. That's why they try to put you on the stand, because they want you to testify. They will lie to you in court and tell you in a civil case that you can't claim the 5th Amendment. They'll lie to you. Yes, you can.
Yep. Yeah. And this is one of the things, too, I was just going to say real fast, and Pastor and I are in agreement on this. The system in itself is not corrupt, but the people within, the people actually running the system, are extremely corrupt. They will lie to you, they will cheat, but the reality is, too, they're actually allowed to do that. It is legal for them to do so, and the reason being is because there has been full disclosure out there.
Right.
Most people would say, no, there's not. Well, yes, there is. Just because you haven't seen it. But the reason why most people haven't seen it is because there's no obligation as to where, when, or how, or any other factor of how GovCo discloses things. But they have disclosed it. So as long as the disclosure's there, whether we've seen it or not, is immaterial. The fact of the matter is it's out there somewhere.
You've heard the term ignorance of the law is no excuse. Why is that?
That's true.
Because they put it out there. The only time
Yep.
ignorance can be an excuse is if you absolutely, unequivocally had no knowledge and they didn't properly disclose.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the lack of knowledge on our part is not an excuse nearly as much as if they didn't disclose it, because there would be nothing to find if they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You can
But they
actually
have.
go to, you can do a search for the United States statutes at large, and there's two websites, loc.gov, Library of Congress, you can see the statutes at large from 1950 all the way back to 1789. Govinfo.gov, you can read them from 1951 to present. You can do the same thing with the Congressional Record. You can do the same thing with your state laws, the session laws. They are publishing everything online. Nobody can claim they don't have full disclosure. Plus, before the internet exploded, you had law libraries in your city and towns, but nobody wanted to take the time to go read. They would go straight to an attorney, and an attorney's really, when you get down to brass tacks, an attorney's job is just to help negotiate a contract that all parties are in agreement to.
Right.
It has nothing to do with your rights, because they have three duties. First, to the court as an officer of the court. Second, to the public. And third, to the client. This is why I say the client's rights be damned. Because if there's an argument between the three, they have to yield to the former. Who's last on the list?
Yeah. Yep.
Because only a free man or woman, you're the only one that can defend your rights. But if you don't know them, how can you?
That's exactly right. Mm-mm-mm. Well, that just, the thing about this state national movement that I've been seeing and hearing and stuff, and where they're saying that they're presenting it to where the attorneys are actually crooks.
Not all of them. I've got some friends that are attorneys that actually pay attention to me on TikTok.
Yeah, and that's part of the English way of the way they do things or whatever. And so the thing about the registration of your vehicle, that's another state national deal, where if you're state national, you don't have to register your vehicle. You don't have to pay for car insurance. It's a voluntary thing if you want to have car insurance. But
yes,
they all
and
talk
yes,
about all the control mechanisms and stuff, driver's license and things.
Yes and no when it comes to registration, but see, they also don't realize who actually purchases the vehicle. It ain't you. Because why? I can show you evidence in government's own writings that the MCO/MSO, the manufacturer's certificate of origin or the manufacturer's statement of origin, is the true ownership document. I've even got it out of corpus juris secundum that a certificate of title does not prove ownership.
Wow.
Okay, so now, if the MCO is the true ownership document, when you went down and purchased a new car, where'd that MCO go? It went to the state. Now, why does the state get that? If you go by simple operation of law, you put everything in the name of the trust. You put the all caps name, you put the social. So by operation of law, since they actually paid for it, it's their property. You're using, and even in Senate Report 43, it actually says that ownership of property is in the state. And you don't own any, and you shouldn't want to own anything. Ownership brings liability. And doesn't it also say in Scripture that God owns it all?
Yeah.
Popeye did that argument with a probation officer and got off of probation.
Hmm.
Hey, James, here's something for you.
Yeah.
Think about this. Well, first of all, do you have your so-called, or the, I shouldn't say yours, but the so-called Social Security card handy?
Yeah.
Pull it out.
Give me a second. It's in my wallet.
All
Well,
right.
depending
Okay,
on
go
how
ahead.
old it is
It's
it
old
your
as
original?
Yes.
It may not have that statement. I did find
No,
out.
I know. I realized because the original that I had didn't have it on there either. So you got your
Okay,
original,
so
James?
it's tattered, and the back says, what do you want it to say?
Well, depending on how old it is, there might be a paragraph on there, a sentence that says, this card belongs to the Social Security Administration, and you must
Yes.
return it if we ask for it. Okay, it says that
Yes.
on there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Think about this, brother. Could it be that they are not concerned about the less than a penny's worth of paper, that they're actually claiming ownership of that information on there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, think about this. When you go buy a so-called car or anything using a name that doesn't belong to you, could it be that the product belongs to whoever owns the name you used?
Right.
Okay, there you go. There's one piece of disclosure that you can't own anything. I'm going to give you another one, and I'm going to show you 3 different ways that GovCo has told you you cannot own anything. The second one is the Federal Reserve note. And I don't care if you're using a derivative such as a credit card or a check, cashier's check.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. A Federal Reserve note is nothing more than an IOU. So
Right.
let me ask you, James, does an IOU actually pay for something, or does it mean that you're going to come back and pay for it later?
It means you're going to come back and pay for it later.
Okay, very good. So if you hand somebody an IOU, it means you haven't paid for it then, right?
Right.
Okay, so if you haven't paid for it, did you buy it?
No.
Okay,
so if
you didn't buy it, how do you own it?
Wait,
You
one,
don't.
one,
Now, before you
one,
get into number 3, Popeye, let's take that one a little bit deeper. A promissory note, as I discussed earlier, is no different than a Federal Reserve note. By law, they're identical. Now,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the maturity date will depend if it's an actual promissory note or a security. Okay? UCC says that if it has a maturity date of less than 9 months, it's a promissory note. Greater than 9 months, it's security. Now, so what can you do with an IOU, otherwise called a promissory note? You can securitize it, you can sell it, you can trade it, you can lien it, you can do all these different things they're doing in the market that you give them permission to do, because on the back of a purchase agreement of the car, they tell you that you waive your rights and interest in that security.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now here's number 3, how GovCo tells you you can't own anything. If you own some property, some land, go check your county tax paperwork. It will not list you as an owner. It's going to list you as a tenant.
Right.
Okay, these are 3 ways that GovCo has told you in their system, in the current system, you cannot own anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I'm talking about, the disclosure. This is 3 different ways that they told you you can't own anything, but yet they did it in such a weird way that there's nothing actually saying specifically those words, you cannot own anything. You have to have the ability to think and look at, okay, well, the name don't belong to me. The Federal Reserve note ain't paying for shit right now. And they've
Mm-hmm.
listed me as a tenant on the tax paperwork and not an owner.
A tenant and an owner is not the same thing.
No, they're not.
Right.
So this is, in fact, I'll give you another one, James, and I like to use this one a lot, especially because it's out there in everybody's face, but yet they completely miss it. And in fact, right now is probably the most poignant time to do this, because currently there's this huge fight between left wing and right wing in GovCo. And they
Oh,
want
yeah.
you to believe that they are viciously at each other's throats right now. But the
Mhm.
reality is this, James, is the bald eagle, the American bald eagle, the symbol for the federal government.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Have you ever seen
Symbol,
a bird
yes,
fly
it's a
with
symbol.
have
Yeah.
you ever seen a bird fly with just one wing?
No.
Have you ever seen it fly with a broken wing?
No.
Have you ever seen them fly without the wings flapping in unison?
No.
Okay. So could it be that they're telling you that that bird is not at war with each other, that there is no real war, that it's just a bunch of bullshit that they tell the people to keep the people all hyped up? But the fact of
Oh,
the matter
yeah.
is the bird can't fly without the wings working together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember it's called propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Propaganda.
The
Now,
guy
let's,
that he developed this a long time. I mean, it's what the heck's his name?
now,
But it's
the Bible.
basically putting stuff out there that seems to be true, but it's not 100% true.
Well, not just that, but think about it. The Bible says you don't fight against flesh and blood. You fight against
No.
powers and principalities of the air.
Principalities and rulers of
Now,
the darkness of this age.
yeah, what
Yep.
comes across the airwaves? Media.
Yeah.
Do you really think Satan and all his agents are going to tell the truth in the media?
No.
But you got the
Oh, no.
majority of the people, they will die by their media of choice. They will die by their political persuasion because why? That's their God.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Very
Well,
much
it's just
so.
like this. That's just like this thing. My wife, she's just. We don't watch mainstream media, but we do see some stuff with some of the channels that we do watch, and it'll pop up and this woke movement and this transgender crap and all this gender that's a bunch of crap. You're a man or you're a woman. That's it. You're born
Yeah.
female or male.
Amen, brother.
No,
Amen.
I'm an it or I choose not to identify. You're a fucking idiot. Excuse my language, but you're that's what you are.
Well, the Bible said in the last days there would be a spirit of delusion.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, if you look back at the Greek and Roman empires, both of those empires collapsed when they started to blur the lines sexually.
Yeah. Yep.
They both collapsed when they blurred the lines sexually, and this private for-profit corporation known as government is currently blurring the lines sexually. They're going to collapse, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, it's going to collapse, but it's still not the government's fault. It's the people's fault because the people don't know the difference.
Getting what they're asking for.
Well, they don't know what they're asking for, but let me share my screen and I'll show you an example. In law,
you can share your
language,
screen now?
because now I'm not at the place I was at where my signal stunk. Okay, now.
Okay.
In law, words matter. Okay. Let's see.
The words have meaning, is what I learned a long time ago.
That's right.
Yes, they do. But they're also ambiguous. While Pastor is pulling that up, I'm going to throw something past you here. A couple of different ways. First, one of the professors, not just myself, but the professor we were in lecture class, and he was talking about the ambiguity of the system, basically talking about a specific case, but how you couldn't essentially get three judges to agree that they're drinking coffee from the coffee machine while they're standing at the machine drinking from it. It's that ambiguous. And when I said something to the effect of, yes, the ambiguity that I love so much, the professor said it's all ambiguous. If it wasn't, we would all be looking for something else to do. The professor just said it's so ambiguous that this shit doesn't mean anything unless you, as the so-called defendant, the one being attacked, believe it does. then there's something else. When it comes to truth, even Truth and facts. That's even ambiguous. And I had this conversation with a friend that was actually the former prosecutor for the city of Long Beach here in California. When one day I asked him, well, isn't truth and facts California, yes, California. That's the correct pronunciation these days. So, well, isn't truth and facts pretty much set in concrete? And he says, oh, hell no. He said, the purple cow. And I said, what do you mean the purple cow? He says, let me explain it to you this way. So first and foremost, if you see a cow out in the middle of the field and I see the same cow, but you see purple and I see white, who's right and who's wrong? Could it be that we're both right? Because if I see purple and you see white, who's to say that either one of us are wrong? If I see what I see what I see.
Yeah.
Okay? So it means that totally even the color of something that we could both see could be ambiguous because it's totally subjective.
Yeah.
Now, let's just say that Pastor and I are in front of a jury, and today is Pastor's day to argue purple. And you're the jury, and he gets up there and he does a better sales job. He does a better job of convincing you, asking you all the right questions. So y'all, as the jury, come back with a verdict of purple. We can all see that the cow is white. We knew the cow was white before trial started. We knew the cow is white after the trial started. But the fact of the matter is, since the jury came back with purple, for that matter, for that instant, that situation, that cow is purple.
And it sounds crazy, but this is exactly how it works.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. The reason why I say that it's the people's understanding that's the problem. Okay. A marriage license, for example, is a 3-party contract. It's between you, your spouse, and the state. It does not have God in it. But guess what? The people believe it has God in it. And then the state says, and we're going to come tear apart your family because we have an interest in this union because you contracted with them. Now, you see this document on the screen? It's called Law, Science, and History, Reflections Upon the Best Interest of the Child. This is a law review written in 1986. Now, again, words matter. See, public and private don't mix. You have a private right under God to do things, but you do not have a private right in the public. Okay? Now, I'm going to go down to page 10. When I read this, it opened my eyes. I said, holy moly.
Is this in the files to read?
Yeah, it's in the files. Just type in the word best. It'll pop right up, Law, Science, and History. It says a slave cannot even contract matrimony. The association which takes place among slaves and is called marriage, being properly designated by the word contubernium, a relation which has no sanctity and to which no civil rights are attached. So, now, could the Supreme Court rule on homosexual marriage? Yes, they could rule the way they did because why? Under the legal fiction world, they cannot discriminate.
Right.
They cannot make a single solitary decision when it comes to your private right to contract under holy matrimony. But most people are not ready for actual marriage because if a man and a woman had to sit down and negotiate the terms of their marriage and write it out on paper, most women would never marry. And neither would most men.
Wow.
You know, my brother, who's gay, he and his husband are just like all about, they want the same rights, the same rights, the same rights. And I've been trying to tell him, you have no idea what you want being a gay couple, trying to be married, having the same rights as men and women in marriage. It's crazy, the ignorance.
Well, that's what I told my Aunt Rox. My Aunt Rox is a lesbian, right? Was she always? No. But like most lesbians, especially older lesbians, they just got fed up with bad men. Okay. Now, I told her she's a Democrat. She hates Trump. She loves Biden. You know, that kind of the normal stuff. I told her, I said, y'all didn't know what you was asking for when you begged the government to give you the permission to marry. You had the private right all along. But no, you surrendered your right and asked for a privilege. So now you've asked the government to be in your private relationship. See, the one thing is, God is the ultimate constitutionalist. He tells you what to do and what not to do, but he still gives you the freedom of choice to do as you see fit, and you have to pay the price.
Right.
Well, there's something else too, Pastor, that is most of these people, including your aunt, probably consider themselves to be citizens. And since they're citizens, they're property, and they need to ask permission for shit because they don't have the right to do anything without getting permission from their owner.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
that's
what
the
does most people
reality of
say on
that, too.
marriage? Say, we want the same tax breaks. Well, guess who pays taxes? Slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to the Civil War. What was it about? It wasn't about slavery. It was about taxes and states' rights.
Yeah. Just like the Revolutionary War wasn't about taxation without representation. It was actually over loans. Most people don't know that, but it was over $18 million worth of loans. And the reality of it is, and the whole thing from the 1871 on, was the bankers wanted collateral for their loans that have still never been paid off.
Well, go into the congressional record, March 9th, 1933. They point blank tell you that they mortgaged all the homes and all the other property of the people of the nation. See, the role of government is to secure your rights and interests. Well, how did they secure that? Well, for one, people got to understand the definition of property. Property is never the tangible item because you can't own the tangible item. That's God's.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have rights and interest in that tangible item. That is the legal definition of property. And yes, you have rights and interest in that home, but guess what? So does someone else. Because the government mortgaged all of them. And they mortgaged your rights and interests to float the loan they needed to fund the government. But the problem is the government can't balance the debt because we're not telling them the securities we're issuing. We're not telling them a darn thing. We're out there like a bunch of selfish people saying we want the next shiny object. Damn the government.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, people are wandering around being claimants, claiming ownership of this, claiming ownership of that. That's seriously what they do. They think they own all this shit. The reality is you can't. In fact, one of the best little stories that I got is when so-called probation officer was trying to nail me to the wall on something called payment, money, and all this other shit. And we were going around having some good time. I kept asking him this, that, and the other thing. And he kept trying to come up with all these different scenarios to try and trip me into saying that I knew what money was, cash was, payment was, all this other stuff. And then the conversation starts to get a little stale, a little stagnant towards the end. And so I throw him a little curveball and I ask the brother, if I'm going to do this thing called pay that you're asking for, I have to own something, be able to pay something. And this brother asked me, well, you don't own anything? And I asked him, is there any evidence that I do? Well, instead of trying to pull up evidence, he spends another 10, 15 minutes trying to trip me up into saying something and claiming ownership. And he finally comes down to the last question he asked me was, well, who owns the clothes on your back? I looked this brother square in the eye and I said, I'm led to believe God. There was nothing but pure silence for a good 10 seconds. 10 seconds. I got it on recording. And that brother, when he picked up the conversation again, he would not touch ownership. He wouldn't touch money. He wouldn't touch payment. He wouldn't touch anything within that realm. And no matter how much I brought it back up to try and get him back into that conversation, he would not.
And then what, 2 months later, they sent you a letter that said your debt was discharged?
So, well, actually, it was about a year. But yeah.
About a year? Okay.
Yeah, they finally ended up sending me something, said, Your debt has been discharged. And they did use that exact wording, discharged.
Can I
So,
can I ask a question?
go for it, brother.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeffrey.
Hello?
Yeah,
Go
we can
ahead.
hear
I
you.
have a question about this. I have a question about discharge. Doesn't discharge put it off to your heirs below you?
No.
It isn't. No. Okay.
No.
I don't really like the term discharge because the actual proper term is set off.
Set off, yeah.
Correct.
Okay, now, what is the Social Security account? It's a closed account. What is a closed account? If you go to the legal definition, a closed account is only closed to credits and debits. Okay? It says in Black's Law 11th, if you go into the file section and look up the word account, you can read it for yourself. It says a closed account is where there's no more credits or debits added. Wait a minute. I thought credits were added and debits were subtracted. No. Both sides are added because there's two sides of the ledger. But the other two sides remain open. The other two sides are adjustment and set off. I have an email, or at least I think I have an email. I just got to find it. A lady used her son's social on an ACH to test a theory. And it got accepted. She got a confirmation number, blah, blah, blah. And then it got reversed. And then the email started between her and the financial institution. The last email the financial institution sent was telling her you cannot use a closed account for an ACH. They admitted, unbeknownst to them, that the Social Security account is a closed account. So how can anything truly be set off if you are not sending it to the government so they can?
Kind of makes you think about it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whole different aspect of this whole thing. Yeah.
The reason nothing's ever getting discharged and ever getting set off, yeah, they may zero out your account if you send them a negotiable instrument and you know what you're doing. They may do that. But that doesn't mean the debt went away. They just transferred it somewhere else. Because until the government settles its obligation, it is not set off.
Yeah.
And the government can
$32
never
trillion
fulfill the obligation.
Yeah, $32 trillion in debt's never going to go away until the government starts balancing its books. But the people won't tell the government, so they can.
Right.
Yep.
People are going to every other third party to do it instead of going to the actual trustees and saying, hey, here.
There's a video, TikTok video. I don't know who did it. It came up on my feed or whatever, and it's kind of like what you're talking about. But the guy's showing on one. There's two circles, and in one circle, it's the upside down ledger. It's a inverted T. Okay.
I reposted that video.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. He is almost right in that video. He is almost right. It's what he says at the end that is where he gets it wrong.
Living off the interest?
He's still coming from the mindset that that's yours.
Right.
It's not yours. It's not there for you. It's there to fund the government. Do you have an interest? Are your necessities supposed to be taken care of? Well, God promised what? A land of milk and honey?
Mm-hmm.
But what is in that milk and honey? That's your necessities.
Yeah.
That's your everyday needs.
Yeah.
They had to give you equal exchange. Hey, let us use your homes. Let us use your rights and interests in this trust to fund this system, and we'll take care of your necessities. Because if you want it in writing, go look at the Federal Emergency Relief Act. It even says the state is supposed to go to them to get the money for your necessities of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there what these people are out there claiming, that it's my account and I should be able to go buy the 50-acre palace with the lake and the boat and the Lamborghini. No, it's not there for you to get rich. It's there for your necessities. But see, people are covetous. They're violating the 10 Commandments. So guess what? The government is actually legislating sin.
Yeah.
Because the heart of man is exceedingly wicked. Who can know it?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows the heart of man better than government? Because it is a bunch of men.
The Creator.
Well, yeah, well, I know that. I'm just talking about, they know their wickedness. They typically get trapped in their wickedness. So all they're doing is legislating the wickedness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tell me, where does a person go to find out about the classes and all that stuff?
Oh, I can share a link. It's in my link tree. It's also on my website. Right now I'm finishing up law of agency, because if you're the agent, how should you be operating in relation to the trustees?
Right.
We got 2 more classes on that, and then we're starting law of contracts.
Well, you remember the video that you did, and you had Spiritual Rock or whatever her name was. She sounded like she was from Jamaica, and you were asking her, "Are you the grantor or the trustee or the registered agent?" She says, "I'm all 3." And you went, "No, you're not. You can't be."
No, you're not.
You pointed it out.
Yeah, you can't be the
Still
grantor.
didn't get it.
Yeah, you can't be the grantor.
No, she didn't get what you were saying. Is she was under the belief that, from what she was told by whoever it was, that she was all 3 of those. And
I can tell you now, Spiritual Rock does watch my videos. I will occasionally get a comment from her privately on Telegram. She won't talk. She will not talk whatsoever, no matter how much I try to help her understand. She will not talk. But I just found out just the other day that she is watching my videos.
I got a good mind to do this, to go on and do a TikTok video and say, "You people that are following all these idiots, y'all are going to get yourself in trouble. If you want to follow somebody, you need to follow this guy right here, because he knows what the hell he's talking about."
Look, I've got people in this group, and most of them are my admins that are very smart. Popeye's an admin. Boris is an admin. David Michael, he's been sitting there just quiet, not saying anything.
Yeah.
You know, David Michael.
I must not be smart. I must not be smart because I'm not an admin.
Well, I can fix that. But David Michael, he's smart. He does private plates and he does all kinds of things. He actually just recently had the judge admit in his current case that he's the general agent for the estate.
Can I say something? I would. There's one to follow, and that's God.
That's it.
That's who you follow.
Yeah. Don't put your trust in no man. That's what the Bible says. And what have we done? We've done the opposite. We put our trust in politicians, in doctors, in teachers, in lawyers. Don't even put your trust in me. That's the reason why I share the information. I say, look, here's where I got it from. Go read it for yourself. I might be wrong.
Could it be the only voice that you should ever really listen to is a little voice from within?
That's right.
Think about it. The only voice that you should ever really listen to.
My ministry, and yes, I have my own church, my ministry is to teach you how to get to the understanding you need to follow your path. Because not everybody's going to want to trust. Not everybody's going to want to get a big $1 million business. Not everybody's going to want to do all these different processes. Everybody's on their own path. My job is to teach you the basic principles. So one day, you don't need me. You can start helping your community. If Jesus, the God of this world, the God of this universe, cannot save everybody, guess what? I can't either. I can only reach the ones God brings across my path. But guess what? If you learn how it works, there's going to be people He's going to bring across your path. The Bible
I'm
says
led
we're
to
to
believe.
make disciples. We're not to make cult followers.
Right.
There's an old saying that goes, God only helps them that help themselves. Seriously. There's also a passage from the Bible that says it's the glory of God to conceal a matter, and it's the honor of kings to search a matter out.
Mm-hmm.
To search a matter out means that you got to get up off your ass and go and dig. You got to look. You got to put in the footwork.
Yeah.
Hey, here's one for you. You're a Christian, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you a verse. The sword. Where are you at? Right there.
There you go. I just put one of the latest envelopes in the chat.
I want to show you this. Joshua
Yeah,
1:8.
I
Okay.
saw that in another file, and I was like, how do you read this?
Joshua 1:8. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Now, let's analyze that. What is the book of the law? Now, most of the people in the church, they only teach that it is the Bible. But is it? Think about it. At the time of Joshua, at the time of Joshua, that was the first 5 books of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Part of Exodus, all of Leviticus, part of Deuteronomy was what? Their version of statutory law.
Yeah.
Statutes and codes.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We have our own government that has statutes and codes. Should we not be studying that because they are beholden to that, so we have good success and we act honorably with the government that God instituted so we can do things right and be free?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the Bible. Yes, the laws cannot violate the principles God put out. The one thing about Michael Heiser, he is one of the best linguistic people when it comes to teaching the words in the Bible from the original language. He is absolutely amazing. And I saw a video one day where he said something that really made me uncomfortable at first. He said, the devil really gets a bad rap. Now, from a Christian standpoint, that should make everybody uncomfortable because, wait a minute, the devil is this evil person. He said, look, the devil is following God's law. The devil may be lying to you because he can. It's his kingdom. Jesus said that the kingdom of this world is Satan's. But he can never make you do anything. He will never violate your free will. He may sit up in that court and throw papers in that black robe and yell and scream at you. He may accuse you because the devil is an accuser. He may accuse you in the position of the DA. He may do all these things, but he can never violate your free will. The devil has to follow the laws of God. So this system we live in is built on biblical principles.
Mm-hmm. It's also completely voluntary.
Caesar's. Yeah.
It's all completely voluntary. They get you to volunteer, and most people don't even know how they volunteer. And I would even say that most of your so-called sovereign free man types don't know how they do that, especially in your so-called secure party creditors and a few others, because people think that they still want to claim ownership. People think that they own shit, so they'll almost immediately claim the damn name. And I know of a bunch of people that think that they own all this other shit, But then at any time, depending on what it is that you say, create yourself as a citizen in their eyes, and you give them jurisdiction. You basically volunteer
Oh,
for
boy.
whatever it is. People don't even know how they do it. Even just making a slight claim. You were speeding. No, I wasn't. You just gave them jurisdiction. You made a counterclaim.
Sorry.
Well,
As soon
let
as
me
you make a
explain.
counterclaim.
Well, let me explain that speeding. Let me give you another example. You say you're getting charged because for the use and possession of marijuana, because in some places it's still illegal, and it's still illegal under the federal law. Okay, let's say that they said they put you on a stand and said, "Sir, was you using marijuana?" Most people will get up and, "Oh, well, yes, I was. You busted me." Okay, but be honest. Do you have firsthand knowledge what marijuana is?
That's a good one.
No, you don't.
Mm-mm.
God created a plant. You have been told that it's marijuana. You've been told by the government. You've been told by the scientists. You've been told by the system. In every which way they claim it to be, that it's marijuana. But do you have of yourself the first-hand knowledge? No, you didn't create it. God did. All you know is it's a plant created by the Creator for your use and benefit. That's all you know.
Bingo.
Oh, well,
And the
it's
way you
cannabis. You still don't know that. You're not a
know that is
scientist.
when they say you were smoking marijuana, you ask, what do you mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
Drinking, what do you mean by drinking? You say you were doing cocaine, what do you mean by that?
I wasn't doing cocaine. My wife's name's not cocaine.
Her name's olive oil. I was doing olive oil. Yeah, it comes, and in fact, this is where I always recommend learning everything you possibly can. But then,
Mm-hmm.
the reason being is the more knowledge you have, the good, better, best questions you can ask. But the reality is, no matter what's going on, whoever it is that's attacking you, you listen very closely to what they're saying. You pay very close attention. You be in the moment. And as soon as they say something, whatever it is, you let them finish. But then you ask them the most important part of whatever it is. What do you mean by blank? Let them finish, and then approach it in two different ways. First, I would say, somebody claiming I'm that. Somebody claiming I did that. Is somebody claiming blank?
Mm-hmm.
There's also another way of asking it, and is, do you have any evidence of that?
My buddy Mark Pegg, he's one of my members. He's in my group. He saw my video on Felicia's channel one day. He had jumped through so many hoops. He had about a $450,000 IRS tax bill. They put a lien he thought was on his house. And he saw my video on Felicia's channel where me and Felicia was talking, and he contacted Felicia and said, how do I get in touch with Pastor? So she sent me a message, helped us get in contact. He hadn't ate. He's just withering away. He's under so much stress because they're talking about taking the rest of his property, taking his family inheritance, taking everything, including the clothes on his back. Okay.
Well, wow.
He had jumped through Guru's hoops. He had done the coupon method, negotiable instrument method, and all he kept doing is digging his hole deeper. Yeah. And finally I said, dude, you don't know who you are. He said, what do you mean? I said, you think that name they're talking to is you. It's not you. So he actually did compensate me for my time. He paid me a pretty good amount of money to help him do his paperwork. And when I wrote his paperwork, and when you pay me my price to do paperwork, you actually get my full attention. So he paid me for 8 hours, and he got 8 hours on the phone or Zoom, me not only doing the paperwork for him, but teaching him why.
Right.
Okay. So when I wrote his first letter to the trustees, he looked at it and said, is it really that simple? I said, yeah. Now he's gaining his weight back. He's eating. He sleeps good at night now.
Yeah.
We have sent letters. We sent the first letter with the coupon and expressed the trust. In other words, hey, this is your person, your property. I'm just the agent. Here, settle your matter. And then we sent that letter out 2 weeks later. He logs into his IRS account. There's another letter sitting there. And I said, let's send that one too. I said, plus, didn't you say you had bylaws in your S corp? He said, yeah. I said, do you have them? He said, I can get them. I said, go get them and scan them in and send it to me. So he gets them, scans them in, sends them to me. I said, go look at such and such page. He said, yeah. I said, what does that say right there? I said, your bylaws say that you are indemnified. You have an indemnification clause. You're not liable for those taxes. That's not your obligation. You are indemnified. So we sent that letter and the indemnification clause to the trustees and said, hey, your person still has this bill that needs to be settled. 2 weeks after that, we sent a third notice, and this time we sent it to the IRS commissioner, to the head legal counsel of the IRS, and to the attorney general. And we said, hey, now in short, we said something along the lines that basically says, hey, according to the supreme law of the land, you have to give me due process, and I need to know what thing are we to use, or am I to use as tender in this matter? He hasn't got another response. Now when he logs into the IRS account to see the debt, and he clicks on the link to see if there's anything there, it says we can't show you anything.
Right. Wow.
They won't even let him see anything anymore.
He got wise.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that when you do some of the right things, and I'll be the first to say that there's many ways to skin a cat. So what is the exact right thing? I don't know for sure. As long as you get the cat skinned, as far as I can see, is the most important part. I'm typically not one that I recommend doing a lot of paperwork because I hadn't had a lot of success with paperwork, but I have had some, and in fact, just recently, some of the success that I have had was dealing with a so-called ticket, a parking ticket, and an attorney claiming that something was owed. And basically, I sent notices to the city, and I sent notices to the attorney asking to meet the real party in interest. And they basically refused to respond. I did a full administrative process, and when at the end I was done, I sent a notice of dishonor and a confirmation of agreement, basically stating that, because in the notices themselves, I stated that a dishonor to the notice would be considered an agreement, that there is no real party at interest, and there is thus then no debt. They've all disappeared. I did the same basic thing to a mortgage company, and right now I'm in the process of suing them. And in fact, they are technically right at the moment in default. I served the companies a while back. It was actually almost 45, about 45 days ago. They had 30 days in which to respond, and we're actually over the default date. And I have since filed a notice of default, and we're just waiting for things to finish playing out. I'm probably still going to contact the mortgage company's attorneys as a sign of good faith and fair dealings, and to potentially negotiate something. But the reality is, before I'm willing to negotiate anything, he has to have his clients answer 19 specific questions, and I'm actually going to add a couple more questions, and they need to disclose who the real party of interest is. And if they can't do it, then as far as I'm concerned, the agreement that they made by not answering still stands, and we can let the court decide at the end. And they're basically screwed right now because they don't have any answer in. They're in default.
Right.
I'm gonna get Mark to see if I'm gonna ask Mark to share his tax lien with me, and then I'm gonna take a PDF editor and edit out the personal information and just use yeah, redacted. I'm gonna put in instead of his name. I'm gonna like change it to John Henry Doe, stuff like that. Protect his information. But I had him one day. I said, Mark, would you read the tax lien to me? And he does. I said, now before you read it, let me ask you a question. When there's a lien, doesn't the lien have to identify the specific property that's being liened? He said, well, it's supposed to. I said, right. I said, now read the tax lien. I said, doesn't it tell you what property is being liened? I said, now he read it to me, and I said, see there? The property that's being liened is the name. It's not the house. You believed it was the house, so you volunteered to let them take it. But does anything in that lien say anything about the house? Does it give you the meets and bounds? Does it give you the address? Does it give you anything pertaining to the house? Does it even mention the house? We said no.
And they actually changed the legal description of the house. Like when you originally got the house, it'll be all in upper and lowercase, the legal description. But then when they do a foreclosure, they'll change everything to uppercase and adding in extra character spacing between the words, breaking up the continuation of fact. So it's not the same legal
but on
description.
but the tax lien that he read, it didn't have anything to do with the house. They put a lien on the name. Well, you carry the name in your pocket. If they got a lien on the name, satisfy the lien. Give them the social. Yep. You can get another one.
So do you guys have these meetings periodically, or is this just a...
I don't have them regularly. I don't have a scheduled time. I drive a truck for a living. But you were talking about the UCC-1, so I decided, hey, I'm going to jump on. I'm going to talk about it. So because I'll see things in the group that I don't agree with, so I'll jump on and do it live, and then we discuss it. And I'll tell you why I don't, and I'll even show you evidence why I don't. So, but I do semi-regularly have lives on here. I'm actually getting ready to start doing lives on TikTok at least once a week. That way, you can always ask questions because one, I'm not going to do lives every day because I don't think you should be on there every day. Your brain is like a cup. When you fill up your cup, you got to give it time to empty. You got to give yourself time to digest the information. You have to build up your stamina. When I first started researching, I was good for about 3 days. My mind couldn't take no more, and I had to stop, and I would turn on music and take a week off from researching. But eventually, I got my stamina built up on researching and taking in information where I could, a month to 3 months at a time, I could just take in information. But eventually, I'd have to take time off from taking in the information to digest it. And see, and it's also why I say the Bible says to surround yourself with a wise counsel. If you can count your wise counsel on one hand, you probably got enough. Anything more than that, you're going to create confusion. But you also got to be wise enough to know that when you're trying to determine who that wise counsel is you get to the point where you start acquiring the knowledge, and when you start left and right proving them wrong, you have to drop them and move to the next one. I started out listening to David Strait and Anna Von Reitz in the beginning. The more I kept proving them wrong, that's why I dropped them.
Well, the short 5-minute video that you did, that just says it all right there. I mean, that text. I'm like, why would somebody do something like that?
Because a lot of these gurus out there care more about you lining their wallets than they do about you becoming free.
Yeah,
like I said, I do a membership. Why? You want me to teach? Okay, I need to park my truck so I can actually give you proper teaching and proper time. So, hey, if you're going to compensate me to do that, guess what? You're going to get it. But I'm not
Well,
like most of these idiots that are out there charging $500, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for classes. The average family can't pay those prices. I know I can't, so why would I
no,
charge you?
right. Well, the thing is too is that they're misguided people that are giving them good hard-earned money to try and get some remedy that they're not getting a remedy. They're getting a freaking headache.
Well, if you understand the legal definition of remedy, a remedy is nothing more than a right. But nobody's teaching what the rights are.
Right.
If you're acting as a general agent, there are certain rights you have under that office. Now, go back to Jesus Christ. Well, the Bible says there's power in that name, right? Well, there's no power in your name. What is the name that is yours right now, that all caps name? But analyze the name Jesus Christ. Take it to the present world. His given name was Jesus. What is his legal capacity? Christ. Was there a last name? No. His office was Christ. Your office is, you are James. Your office is general agent.
Right.
One of the best teachers.
Why do you think most of these government agents never can be touched or held liable? Is they're acting in their office. You don't like what's going on because you don't understand why it's going on.
Right.
Yeah, most people don't. I was just going to say real quick on that note. In fact, most people don't realize that they're never going to win if they sue the agent as the agent. You sue a judge as a judge, you're not going to win. You sue a DA as a DA, you're not going to win. You sue a politician as a politician, you're not going to win. But if you sue the real man, just open the door. Because if you sue him as the agent, you're putting the corporate veil in front of them. You're putting the bulletproof vest on their body so that you can't get to them. But the reality is, and the reason why you do that, the way you do it is because if you're just acknowledging the agent, that title of agent, you're actually acknowledging that the entity they believe they work for is real beyond the piece of paper.
Yeah.
My buddy Mark up in
corporate veil
Minnesota.
in front of them.
My buddy Mark up in Minnesota told a judge and a DA one time, if you issue a warrant for failure to appear, I will send you an invoice. Told him 3 times. The very day they issued the warrant, he's put in the mail a $500,000 invoice for the violation of his rights. Okay? And he did an itemized bill equivalent to $500,000 apiece. And he listed the parties in their personal name and their wives for racketeering. No, for money laundering. Because why? The wives go spend the money. So he said that's money laundering. So he listed the judge's the private name, personal name, and the wife, and he sent it to their house. The judge and the DA went to the next county over to get a restraining order on him for sending that invoice.
Yeah.
My buddy Mark ain't no joke. He is not scared. He turned a judge one day into a state's witness. He asked for the claimant. She said, state of Minnesota. You sound like you have firsthand knowledge of that, Your Honor. She said, yes, I do. Okay, I'm going to call you to testify at my arraignment. She said, Mr. Garrett, you better be quiet now. He said, are you trying to interfere with my First Amendment right to freedom of speech by telling me to be quiet? You don't have that right.
Wow.
These people put their pants on just like you do. Why are you afraid of them? Can they kill the soul? No, they can only kill the body. We say we believe in God and we believe in Christ, but we act like we don't. We fear man instead of God.
Right. So true there.
Oh yeah. Well, it's because people don't know shit. The, the people in the so-called country and or around the world, how far you
Yeah.
want to expand that, they're living. It's the entire system's based on hearsay and assumptions, driven with linguistic sleight of hand. The hearsay starts off with, "Oh, you're an American citizen. You're this. You're that." But yet, that's all hearsay, and it's assumed that all of that is true. Linguistic sleight of hand is pretty simple. In fact, I've used the word, and several of us have used the word "we." Well, who the hell is we? They? Who's them? If we're talking about we, are we talking? Yeah, right. Are we talking about everybody in this call? Are we talking about all the people in the town that I'm known to roam, and you're known to roam, and Pastor's known to roam, or should we just include all 7.9 billion people on this rock called Earth? Who the hell is we?
Yeah.
Just
Last
assume
time I
that
looked,
when
we is a small thing.
yeah, right. Very small.
They give you they tell you in court, just say you sent in some government forms, you didn't do them right. Next thing you know, the government's hammering you, saying you committed fraud. And they ask you on the stand, did you fill out a form? You think they're talking about those forms because that's what you did. So you convict yourself by saying yes. Okay.
Yeah.
But what is a form? Have them define it. Define what a form is. Think about it.
Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor. I've actually have done forms before. I've drawn circles and squares and rectangles. I mean, I've drawn all kinds of forms.
Well, how about we even start one step further back, and when they say, have you asked, well, who do you mean by you?
Correct.
You
That's
is a very
good
ambiguous word. Yeah, because you is not only completely ambiguous, it's not singular, it's plural. Because how many times have any of you guys said, hey, guys, like I just did?
Or
how many of you guys, I just said it, say it. I said it to say it. How many of you guys have said, hey, you guys?
Well, you could also have you. I mean, what else is a U? EWE? That's pronounced you.
Yep.
I actually had a conversation. I had a conversation with a top attorney in North Carolina one day. He's a retired attorney. He's like 72 years old. And he asked me one day, he said, how good are you at contracts? I said, well, Mike, everything's a contract. I said, I don't care if it's a civil case, criminal case, it's all contracts. He said, I don't agree with you. I said, really, Mike? I said, Mike, when you was a defense attorney and the judge asked you questions, did you presume to know what he meant? Or did you ask him to define the words? And as soon as I put it that way, he got it. He said, oh, my God, in all my years of practice, I never put that together, but you're right.
And it's amazing how attorneys don't get some of this shit, how they're just completely oblivious to it. And they will completely
And it's not
deny
intentional.
No,
it's not always intentional. They just don't think. They're so used to operating in that system that they're operating in that they don't think about it from a simplistic standpoint.
Well, there's also the fact, too, and this is something that's light even more so again. Just recently, I was reading through a PDF of the FBI's description of what is known as a sovereign citizen. And as I'm reading through this stuff, I'm realizing that the things that they're telling the agents through this PDF is not actually correct. That these the agents could actually go and look up the code, statutes, and different pieces of legislation and realize that the PDF is actually a lie. And even just more recently, the Sherry Peel Jackson, the former IRS agent, her video has been circulated again. And in her videos, she talks about specifically how when she was being trained as an IRS agent, they gave her a little pamphlet, a little book to go by for when she was operating as an agent. Well, when she started looking at this book, and what really got her to realize that the book was not right is there was a contest. Somebody had posted in the paper a $50,000 reward for the one, whoever it was, that could find the actual law that states that somebody owes a tax. Well, she started, her and several other agents, before a bunch of them retired, her being one of them, or resigned, I should say, not retired, but resigned. They started looking for this so-called code, statute, whatever, the so-called law. And in that process, not only did they never find that law, but they realized that everything that was in their so-called pamphlet was a complete lie. It was the opposite of what the actual codes and statutes say. Yes. So they're lying to their agents. These agents are out there operating illegally because they don't know what the hell they're doing, and they're telling people and arresting people on assumptions and misinformation, disinformation.
Let's see.
Sure.
I think now's a good time to bring up Who Are You?
I read that.
Eric, Who Are You, that PDF?
I think so. It was you. It was you. That's what it was.
No, this is titled WHORU. Okay.
Oh.
This is actually, let me share my screen. Now, the reason I'm going to share this is because this is pertinent to it. This is a prime example. Is this hearsay? Yes. The person that gave it to me, I trust. That's Markup, Minnesota, and Boris. They both personally knew this guy. He's deceased now. Okay. It says, in regard to the use of my notice and demand by patri idiots. How many times have you heard these gurus talk about notices and demands? You have.
Yeah.
In conjunction with a court case. I have been in this freedom fight since 1964. That tells you this has been going on for a long time.
Dang.
My dad, I can tell you some of his stories to tell you how long it's been going on. In the beginning, not knowing any better, I accepted the teachings then prevalent among adherents. During my early years, I learned most of what was then prevalent was total nonsense, non-think, patri idiot rat poison. Unfortunately, the same nonsense is even more widespread today than back then. I suffered through it all until 1970 when I was prosecuted by the IRS for criminally failing to file or pay income tax. I went to federal district court in Los Angeles in 1970, all by myself with absolutely no plan of defense. I had filed no documents with the federal prosecutor or the federal court. I was confident my Creator would guide me safely through the battle or not, as He determined my situation and outcome would best serve His intentions. There was only 5 people in the federal courtroom: the judge, bailiff, clerk, IRS prosecutor, and me. The case was called. The prosecutor stood and said, "Citizens of the United States have an obligation to blah, blah, blah." At which time I stood and said, "I object." Federal judge, "Why are you objecting? He hasn't said anything yet." Me, "Well, he said citizens of the United States have all those obligations he was listed. And that may be true, but he doesn't have anything in his file to put me in that class." Judge, "Are you renouncing your citizenship?" Me, "How can I renounce that which I never applied for?" Judge, "Where were you born?" Me, "At the time of my birth, I had just gone through a terrible ordeal. I was gasping for breath. I could not read or write. I did not know who I was, where I was, or even what I was." Judge, "What did your mother tell you?" Me, "At the time of birth."
Oh, you getting a call?
He'll be back.
Yeah, he's on the phone. That's so far. That's pretty. That's good.
Well, think about it, James. And this is one of those things that people don't get either. They automatically, I talk about people making claims and giving jurisdiction. Well, these judges know for a fact that none of us can actually truly testify to anything firsthand knowledge about the day that we were born. We don't know any of it to be a fact. We've only been told it to be a fact.
Right.
But yet, right, exactly. I can't remember. I got a pretty damn good memory, and I can't remember the doctors and nurses. I can't even tell you that for sure I dropped out the mom, mom told me that I dropped out the mom, but I don't know that I dropped out the mom.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Also, what calendar are you referring to?
Right. Well, and the reality comes down to this: if we were to testify in court to anything such as the name, well, if you claim that name, technically speaking, you're trespassing the chattels and you're committing fraud.
Mm-hmm.
One, you're assuming that property that isn't yours is yours, so that's trespass to chattels, and then you're using a name that doesn't belong to you as personal identification purposes. Fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Use something that doesn't belong to you as any kind of way of having somebody think that it is you when it's not really is fraud. Well, then when it comes to something such as the so-called birth date, because they'll ask you, well, were you born on such and such day, or what is your birth? And everybody says, well, it was such and such date. Well, they know that you just committed perjury right there in court because you don't know shit, but yet you just made the claim that you do.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, and this is one of the reasons why when people, as a criminal or a so-called defendant, you're innocent until proven guilty. But they never find you innocent again. They always find you not guilty. And the reason why they find you not guilty is because if you claim that name, you committed 2 crimes right there. And then if you talk about the birth date, you committed a 3rd one right there. So you're now guilty of at least 3 crimes that you committed right in the courtroom. You're still guilty. They just have found you not guilty for the time being. But you're not innocent anymore because you actually committed the crimes in front of the judge.
Yep. It's true. That is so true.
It is, brother. And this is one of those little ways that they get you caught up in all this shit and you don't even realize.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when it comes to citizen, and this is one of those where a lot of people claim so-called citizenship. And ask people, especially during Rona year, I started having a lot of fun with people asking them all kinds of stuff. Like, I'd ask them, would you ever claim to be something that you don't know the definition of that something? Such as a Girl Scout. Would you claim to be a Girl Scout if you didn't know what a Girl Scout is? And inevitably, everybody always said, no, of course not. And then I'd ask them, okay, that's great. Do you believe that you're a U.S. citizen? Well, of course. Okay, great. Can you give me the true legal definition of what a U.S. citizen is? Well, wait a minute. You just 30 seconds ago, you just said you would never claim to be something you don't know the definition of, and here you are claiming to be something that you don't know the definition of. You just made the claim of it.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing? See, the problem with this is, too, the courts have actually said that a citizen can't exist.
Yeah.
A citizen technically cannot exist, and the way they've done it is first, in several cases, find a citizen in a quick synopsis form that is a member of a body politic with a duty of allegiance in exchange for a duty of protection. And that word exchange being the quid pro quo, the this for that, the contractual language and the nature of it all. Okay. Well, then there's even more cases. There's one just added to this list. Parkland, Florida. There's going to be another one coming up here pretty soon. That's going to be Uvalde, Texas. And it's going to be ruled, such as it was in Parkland and every other previous case, that GovCo does not have any duty to protect. Think about this, James. If they don't have a duty to protect, is there anything being exchanged then?
No.
So if there's nothing being exchanged, doesn't that eliminate the definition of a citizen as one with a duty of allegiance?
Yeah.
So that's how they just eliminated the possibility, the technical reality that a citizen cannot exist. Now, does that mean that they won't treat you like a citizen anyway? Oh, hell no, because everything's a contract at the moment. And any time in the moment of an event, if you believe you're a citizen, he who will be deceived, let him. They're not going to tell you anything otherwise. They're going to treat you as a citizen if you believe you're a citizen.
Right.
And as a citizen, because the name is the citizen, not the body, the name is. Okay? But they do own that name. So they're going to treat you as such. They're going to treat you as property. Now, one of the things that people complain about a lot, and especially lately, that, you know, cops are shooting people left and right, you know, killing everybody. Well, the reality is they're not killing the people. They're just taking care of their property. Because if I'm a farmer, if I've got cattle and I'm taking my cattle to market, other than a few animal rights activists, it's not considered murder when I take my cattle to market. Likewise, if I'm just taking care of my cattle before it's time to take them to market, but I got one out in the middle of the pasture that's got the mad cow and he's starting to run around headbutting and trampling the other cattle, I need to go out and put that cow down, and it's humane to do so because I'm protecting the other cattle. Nobody can say anything because it's my property. People claim to be the property of GovCo, then they get what they get. And quite frankly, a lot of times what they end up getting is a bullet in the head or raped somehow, getting a little ass raped. Well, the thing is, the reality is, when you claim to be their property, you've also claimed that it's okay for them to do whatever they want with you, including putting a bullet in their head. Okay. The flip side of that is, too, because of things such as the Libra Code, trading with the enemy,